What's up, guys? Phil here from RedEye Gaming, and today I am bringing you the new update to Assetto Corsa. It is version 1.3, as well as I'm also going to show you the DLC pack number 2. I'm going to cover all the cars in that, as well as obviously you see the background, me driving on Barcelona, which is the track that was on DLC. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what was actually updated to the game. The update is just a regular update. It is free. You don't have to buy anything to get the update. So for the update, some of the new things I noticed in the game, this is an act. These are things I noticed on the loading screen now. When you are loading a new car up, it'll tell you kind of like what aids the like driving aids or whatnot the car will have. It'll tell you, does it have brake balance adjustment in car? Does it have throttle cut on upshifts? Do you need to blip on downshifts, or does it have an auto blip? It'll tell you all that information right there as the screen's loading, which can be nice if you're unfamiliar with the car and you're not sure. Another thing I noticed, and it's just a small thing, but it kind of just was cool, and I thought it was at least, is when you first get in a car now, when you're in the pits and you press go drive the car, the driver's door closes, just as if it was open and you got in and you closed it. So I thought that was really neat. The door closes now as you get in the car. I know that's a small little thing, but I thought it was neat. So some of the things they say in the changelog about this update is that they have a reworked physics engine, and it's now using 64-bit multi-threaded, and it's supposedly supposed to be better. And because of that, certain things like dynamic tracks could happen in the future, but they're not here yet. I didn't notice a huge difference in the physics of the game. It sounds like this is more of a building block onto something in the future, but not a huge difference that I noticed. I did notice a little bit of difference in the force feedback, but I'm going to talk about that later. Another thing they mentioned was the sound, and that they fine-tuned the sounds, and they worked with the company to redo the sounds and have a new way of capturing the audio traces from cars. I thought the sounds were okay. The thing is, to me, they've never been great in Assetto Corsa, but they've never been terrible. They've just been kind of okay. So, I don't think they made a huge improvement that I saw, but I also don't think they're bad. I think they're still pretty good. Last thing is they have an updated multiplayer interface. That is one thing I'm not going to cover because I just don't race online in this game whatsoever. I feel like regardless of how you update the interface, unless you have a some type of ranking system to get in a race with people similar to you, and then also you really kind of need to have some type of penalty system where if someone always drives like an idiot and smashes their car and there's around them, they can't. There's no really way. Basically, I'm getting at it have to be similar to iRacing's kind of licensing system, or I don't really think it's going to ever work that well for online racing, and that's why I don't do it in this game. Although, however, if you were in a league, I'm sure that would actually work out really well. I'm not in a league, and I don't really have time to be in one. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the fun stuff, the cars and then the DLC pack. Now, these are things that you will have to pay for. It was $8 that I bought today. Obviously, you see me in the background. I am driving on Barcelona. You actually get two versions of this track. You get the kind of Grand Prix version, which Formula 1 runs, and then you get the Moto version, which I am running. Main difference being the last sector. As you'll see, in the background, there is no kind of chicane in the third sector. You kind of don't have that part, which I never really liked that anyway. So that's why I use this version of the track. And also the turn that's coming up in this video, not this turn uphill, but the next turn that comes up, it kind of leads into Sector 3. It is a little bit different from how it would be in the other Okay, so as you see in the background, I am driving the Lamborghini Countach. Probably a lot of the people who are old enough would recognize this car right away. Probably brings up a lot of nostalgia. A lot of people probably grew up with this car as a poster on their wall. And it is really well done. I had a great time driving this car. It is a lot of fun to drive. This car is great to also just drive. There's no like pressure to go out and set the fastest lap time. It is so much enjoyable to just drive, and that is one of the great things about how it's done. You can actually just drive the car, have a great time. I mean, it would be perfect for like a track day type thing if you wanted to do that on Assetto Corsa. Okay, so now we're going to move on, and this is the Ford GT40 Mark 1. What can I say about this car? This is probably my favorite car of the pack. The entire time I was driving this, I just had a huge grin on my face, and I don't even like Fords. I mean, I don't like Fords. I never have been. Always been about in the Chevy versus Ford. I've always been about the Chevys, but this car is just dynamite fun. Oh my gosh, so much fun to play with. It really kind of performs like, I mean, honestly, I thought it was almost a little bit too easy maybe to drive, considering it's a 1960s race car, and I was expecting it to be a little bit harder to drive, and it was pretty easy to just pick up and go without, you know, a lot of experience driving the car. Just kind of thinking of, you know, just kind of knowing like, oh, it'll probably handle a certain way because of the type of car it is, but it was much easier than expected. It is incredible. It makes great noise. I can't say enough good things about this car. Probably my favorite car of the pack. You can't not drive this thing and not have a smile on your face. This car is just so much fun to drive. Okay, so now moving on. Once again, these cars are not in any particular order, just a random order. So this is the Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus SCG003. Yeah, so that's a mouthful. But the car itself, really fun to drive. Had a great time driving it. It's pretty similar to a GT3 car, and apparently, just doing a little bit of background research on the car, it was the designer of this car was trying to bridge the gap between an LMP car and a GT style car, with some of the aerodynamic things they have on the car. I would say it pretty much drives very similar to a normal GT3 car. It's not, you know, from the limited testing I did, the lap times were very similar, you know, to the point that you could probably run this in races with GT3 cars and not really say that, you know, you had an unfair advantage or, you know, you were too slow because of the car. I think it's pretty close to a regular standard GT3 car. I believe it was built to the GT3 standards, although it's not currently running in GT3. Other thing about this car is I really like the cockpit. I don't know why, I guess maybe because there's two sets of shift lights, I don't know. Either way, the cockpit really stood out. I really enjoyed the cockpit in this car, and it's really well done, really well designed, and I had a great time driving this car. Okay, so now moving on to the roofs. This is the RT12. Now this is like one of the few things I have a problem with this pack. There's two separate cars, and I'll talk about the other one when I get to it, but especially this one. Not that there's anything wrong with the car or like it drives weird or anything. I think the car is actually great. You know, it feels like a car that has, you know, 700 horsepower and is a street car. You know, my God. And you know, it's rear engine, so obviously if you don't slow down, you're just going to plow through the turns, which it does. and does pretty well. I was pretty good at completely messing up my braking and plowing through the turns in this car. The thing I don't like is that they advertise that you're getting two cars when in reality you're getting the same car and one is rear-wheel drive and one is all-wheel drive. I drove both of them. There's not really a huge difference, and I really don't see why they had to put like two cars in the game. I mean, they could have just, made it like an upgrade, where one of them was rear-wheel drive and one of them was all-wheel drive. I don't really see the reasoning behind two cars that are exactly the same minus, the way that the power is delivered to the wheels, when you could just model that and just make that like an upgrade within, the menus or something. So yeah, I really don't I mean, as you see there, I didn't slow down, just plowed through that corner. Other than that, the car's great, a lot of fun to drive. It is a bullet in a straight line, which, considering it does have 730 horsepower, that's probably why. But yeah, don't be fooled and think that they're like two different cars. They're the same car, just the power delivery is different. Okay, so moving on now to the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 car. Has 600 horsepower and weighs 1,240 kilos. One thing I wanted to talk about with this car is the force feedback. And this is, if there's any big difference in the physics that I felt, it was especially on this car. The force feedback seemed a lot heavier compared to the other, basically street cars that I was driving, which makes sense, in a race car would pull more G-forces. And also, I felt a lot more bumps coming through the wheel that I didn't feel so much coming with the street cars. Now, the explanation I could think for that was just simply that, a race car has a much tighter suspension than a street car, and therefore you would feel a lot more bumps, which would, make sense. So I'm thinking maybe that's why, but I was really impressed when I first drove this car for that reason. The force feedback was a decent amount different on this car compared to the other street type cars I was driving, which, that I thought that was nice, and that's, something that should happen. The GT3 car should handle differently than a street car, so it was nice to see that put into the game. And a lot more bumps. Like I said, I don't know how bumpy Barcelona is in real life, but there's a lot of bumps, especially with this car. Maybe there was a low ride height or something I wasn't aware of. Other than that, it felt like a GT3 car. You can really throw these things around in this game without too much fear of overstepping the line. They have a lot of grip, but I also think they have a lot of grip in real life. So fun car, adds to the GT3 collection on the game. So yeah, good car overall. Okay, so moving on now, again, here we are, and we are at the BMW M4. This car is a blast. This car would be so much fun to do track days in. I really enjoy driving this car. It is just a good driving car. I don't know how else to say it. Like, unless you drive it yourself, I mean, everything just works the way you want it to work with the physics. It just works, and I mean, I could see myself doing quite a few laps around the old Nordschleife here in Assetto Corsa in this car, because it just handles how you think it's going to handle. It doesn't surprise you. It doesn't, I mean, maybe it's just my driving style, but it just felt really good. Very fun car to drive, and I can't really say enough good things about the car. Great on the force feedback as well. The force feedback was really smooth. The car comes in at 425 horsepower and weighs 1,626 kilos. You know, pretty standard average stuff for a road car. You know, obviously the one that's in a video game. And coming up, you're going to see footage of the other BMW M4. And that's where I'm going to have another little mini rant about having the same car in the game twice. Okay, so here's the BMW M4. This one happens to be the Arakovic, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, edition. From what I can tell, the main difference is the sound. And I think this version might accelerate a little bit quicker. But as far as the specs of the car, you know, as far as weight and excuse me, as far as the weight and the horsepower on the car, they're the same. The only thing I could think of, you know, is I do think it might be just a little bit quicker in a straight line. And obviously if you drive it, you will know right away the sound, especially on the backfires and the downshifts, much different from the regular M4. However, once again, you know, they advertise these two cars as being, you know, two different cars. You know, you get two cars, but really it's almost the same exact car with a different sound. And once again, I don't know why this wasn't just offered as, you know, an upgrade in the upgrade like menus that they have in this game, where they've already done that with other cars where they have the same car and they have it as different upgrades. Yet for this one, apparently, you know, they wanted to put two versions of the same car in the game again. I don't know, it just, you know, it kind of is misleading a little bit if you just read that, oh, you know, you get 9 cars with this car pack, when really it's more like 7, because 2 of them are kind of clones of each other. Anyway, but the car does drive well. You know, all the same things apply to this one that applied to the M4. It does drive well, really fun. I actually like the sounds too. I mean, I'm not even saying the sounds are bad. It's just that, once again, I just don't understand why they didn't just put the car in as an upgraded version. Instead, they put it in as its own complete car when it's basically the same thing with different sounds. Okay, so last but certainly not least, this is the Audi R8. I believe it's the LMS Ultra. It's basically the R8 GT3 car. Once again, another GT3 car here, so I mean, we're gonna have the full field soon. But there is, you know, quite a few GT3 cars now available. I'm sure, you know, there's going to be a bunch of leagues running all these different GT3 cars, and that's great. You know, you got a lot of GT3 cars also. You know, not really my favorite thing in the world for GT3 cars, but that's just a personal thing. It's not that the car handles weird or anything like that. One thing I do want to say, though, is the sounds on this car are pretty awesome. If there's one, I mean, the Lamborghini GT3 car that came with this pack, I just felt kind of, it just sounded kind of tame, you know? I mean, that Lamborghini has a V10 in it, and it just seemed like muffled and tamed. And then this car, which also, granted, does have V10 in it, you know, it's much, you know, it just sounds more wild, and like it sounds like a proper race car. I don't know, you know, what the difference is, or maybe that's more realistic to what the Lamborghini GT3 actually sounds like. Maybe it is more tame in real life. But yeah, the car itself is good. You know, another great addition to the GT3 class here for Assetto Corsa. If you know, if you wanted to do any type of league racing, I could definitely see the GT3 being quite popular. So all in all, this, you know, DLC pack, I mean, I think it's worth it. For the $8, you do get quite a few cars and a great track. I mean, Barcelona, I mean, iconic track. It's really good for testing cars as well, because you know, you got to have a good balance on the car to do well here. You can't just have a lot of aero or no aero. All in all, I do like the pack, and you know, I would recommend it if you play Assetto Corsa quite a bit. If you don't play Assetto Corsa, then I would say you probably wouldn't really like this pack anyway. I mean, if you have Assetto Corsa, it's probably worth picking up. But in the end, I hope I, you know, helped you at least see what this pack looks like, what it kind of looks, drives like, sounds like, and hope, you know, help make your decision. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this video. And until next time, this is Phil from RedEye Gaming. I will see you later.